Okay, hello. Hello, it's Richard Hobbs, and this is Friday morning, November 16th, 2018. This is copyrighted by Richardpaulhobbs at gmail.com. Please subscribe and please give me solidarity in this issue because I'm very, very confused. I'm not confused. I'm not saying that I'm confused, but I'm saying that the situation that the Mr. Lasco, the inspector of the buildings and housing in the city of Yonkers in New York, and Mrs. Marion McBain, the lady who seems to be controlling things that happen here at 1 Caryl Avenue, which is where this videotape's being made in Yonkers, in the corner of Caryl Avenue and South Broadway. She seems to think, because she said to me 3 times, that she doesn't have to put heat on in this building from 12 midnight until 6, 7, or 8 a.m. in the morning. That it's okay because nobody in the building except me complains or worries or is unhappy about that. Now, many people in the building have said to me there's no heat here, and it's very much of a problem for them. And the fire department officers, Lieutenant O'Connor and Chief DeSantis were in my apartment, said that it is a problem, that because if there's no heat in the building, then people operate space heaters, and they open their oven and they turn the heat into the house. That those things are the kind of fire hazard that might cause a fire to start. And if a fire starts, then the fire department has to come and try and put it out and cope with it and stop it. But and I don't like to start fires. I don't like fires to be started. I think that's a serious fire hazard. And I think that should be prevented by the landlord and the building inspector and the fire department marshals. And these two fire persons are fire marshals who come around and look at things to decide if they're not. Now, this is 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it's closer to 5 now. But I want to show you why I think that there's no heat in this building from 12 midnight to about 6 a.m., 7, 8. I don't know. It seems to change a little bit. But this is the bathroom, and this is a pipe. I understand this to be a pipe that heat comes up from the furnace, the boiler, and it goes into this pipe, and it goes up to the floors. And by doing that, it radiates into this room and creates heat. And it's around 5 a.m. And I can take my hand and I can put it on this pipe and I can hold it. And I don't like to touch hot things. If there was heat going through this pipe, I wouldn't be able to do this. Now, this is the only evidence that I can think of that I can provide to show there's no heat here at 5 a.m. in the morning. There's no heat in this pipe. Now, Mr. Lasco said that the reason there's no heat in my apartment, or I don't have heat, because I have things surrounding the heat radiators, too much stuff surrounding the radiators. And that keeps the heat from coming into the apartment. Now, I don't think he's correct. I think he's incorrect. I think he doesn't understand his profession or how heat works. Because I went to school, and in school they taught us that heat rises, that it goes up. And I learned about what's called a heat sink. A heat sink is something that absorbs heat and gets hot, pulls the heat, and then later on the heat comes out of it slowly, and that's what I was taught. And a radiator is a piece of metal. The hot water goes through it, and the heat goes into the radiator. And then after the hot water isn't going through it, it transfers into the air and it goes through the room. That's what a heat sink is. And just about anything that you would, if Mr. Losko is correct, that I have too much stuff in the apartment and it's surrounding the radiators, and it's preventing the heat from coming out of the radiators. This is a stupid idea, or it's an idea based on personal whim and avarice and caprice, but it's not based upon any reason or any science or any factual idea. Because if there is stuff, whatever it would be, especially metal things or anything that's surrounding a radiator, it's not going to prevent the heat from coming into the room. It's going to act as a heat sink, and it's going to absorb the heat, and that's going to keep the heat in the room. In fact, given the fact that I know from having lived here for 5 years that there's no heat here from 12 a.m. to 5 or 6 or 8 a.m. when it's very cold, I have to, I might have very intentionally loaded the apartment with lots of things, more things than most. I want to have heat sinks so that when the heat comes through the radiator and goes up to the upper floors, that they absorb the heat and they hold on to it, so that when the heat's not coming through when it should be, that they will continue to radiate heat into the upper airs. And this is the radiator in what's supposed to be the bedroom. And the bedroom I can't use as a bedroom. I can't sleep in here because it's freezing in this bedroom. It's freezing outside at night. It's freezing in this bedroom. That's a fact. And of course, the only way for me to be able to, quote, prove it would be to get somebody come in here and be here at 3 a.m. in the morning. Now here's the radiator, and here's my hand touching it, because there's no heat coming into it. No heat. And it isn't but things that will keep the heat from going up. It isn't. It's now I'm sneezing because it's freezing in the room, because there's no heat here. The only thing I have on top of this radiator is some things made of metal that would tend to act as a heat sink, because what happens in an apartment building is the heat comes out of the radiators, if it's correct in the way it's supposed to be, and it goes up, and heat rises and it goes up into the ceiling, and then it goes up into the other floors. And typically in buildings, what you have is the lower floors are colder, and the top floors are very, very warm, especially if there's any kind of insulation in the roof that keeps the heat from going up into the atmosphere above the building. That's science, and that's the way it works, and should employ these ideas in their evaluation and their judgment of how things should be. But Mr. Losko has his own whim and his own caprice and his own avarice, and he thinks that something that's not possibly true is the reason why it's cold in the apartment. And then he says, I have the window open. But I don't ever have the window open. I don't have the window open. I don't know when he came here that he saw the window open, unless I had opened the window when he has come here. He has never come here, never, ever come here. And the entire scheme of the city of Yonkers, of the employees who work in the city of Yonkers, their entire scheme about how they're going to inspect this apartment building is they're going to come here at 10 o'clock in the morning, having told the landlord they're coming, and see if there's heat in the building. And I'll tell you, I have been in this apartment building, and I've been in this room in the middle of the winter, and I left a little bit of water here somewhere in a little dish, and it froze. In 3 a.m. in the morning, it's frozen. It's ice. Now, if it's warm in this building, and I've never had this, I've had things around it. Hopefully, I have heat sinks, but I never have it so that the heat can't come out of the radiator. Not here, and there's no other radiator in this building, in this room. And I have a lot of stuff in this room, but I live in this apartment, and there's an implication from the government and the Section 8 that I'm not supposed to have anything. I'm just supposed to have a bed and a dresser, and everything else I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have videotapes. You see, these are videotapes. They're all videotapes. Now, I can't, and there's a Hebrew. I'm learning Hebrew because I'm Jewish. I'm supposed to be Jewish, but I didn't get taught Hebrew from Judaism. I have to teach if I want to learn it. I'll go to other places. And this is videotapes. Videotapes. And this is a dresser. This was my mother's dresser, and she died. And it's very valuable things in it, heirlooms and family things. And this is a printer, a copier that I've never been able to get set up since I had it for 2 months. And this is some clothing. This is the only place I have to have clothing and hang it. And these are mostly empty bins. Mostly empty bins. There's some clothing and a few of them. And I have them here because I anticipate, you see down there, they're empty. There's 4 stacked, the gray ones in the middle there, on inside each other. And there's other bins. They're half empty or empty. And I have the bins because I anticipate that I'm going to lose my trial about being a hoarder and smelling and having all these problems that they're accusing me of allegedly doing, because I'm going to lose. Because apparently in Yonkers there's a lack of understanding and education. And the people who work for the city of Yonkers, like Mr. Lusko, they're not qualified to do what they do anywhere else in the world except the city of Yonkers, apparently, because now that window is not open, and it is not blocked. And yesterday, someone helped me to rearrange things here, and we didn't finish, and that will be taken away in a few minutes. But that little stuff right there wouldn't keep a fireman from coming in or going out. But no one could go out of this window because it's 3 stories off the ground. And this one you could go out of, but because you could get right onto the street, the ground. It's not that far down, but it's not blocked. And it isn't generally blocked. It might be blocked for 10 minutes if I'm putting something over there to rearrange stuff, to put something over here, but I don't keep it blocked because I know what the rules are, and because I'm not an idiot, and I don't want to be in a dangerous situation. I don't want to be in a fire hazard. I have no desire to be in a fire hazard if the fire hazard is something that's going to cause a fire to start. I don't want to cause fires to start. But if they do start, I don't understand what the word clutter means, and I don't understand what the word hoarding means, and I don't understand what the word, what other words are being used by these people who are professionals and who are experts, because when I go to the dictionary and I look up the words in the papers they give me, the words in the dictionaries don't seem to mean the same thing as whatever they mean in the papers they're giving me and the words they're saying to me, because I'm a layperson and I'm not a professional. And the reason I won't admit that I had more stuff. I would like to have this room from the floor to the ceiling, filled with boxes with videotapes and books in them. That's what I would like to have. And maybe some clothing and some other belongings. I would like to do that. Why? Because what happens in this room, which is the bedroom, is there's only one radiator that doesn't seem to work except when the heat comes up out of it. And it doesn't come up, by law, it's supposed to come up. And there's cold air on the outside of this wall and on the outside of that wall. And wind blows. And it makes it cold. It makes it colder. The wind chill factor makes this room much colder than other rooms in the world. And these walls, this is a 100-year-old building. And these walls are brick on the outside and plaster on the inside, and there's air between them. But I don't think there's any insulation here. So this is an old building. So all these videotapes are there for 3 reasons. So I could store my videotapes so I could look at them when I want to look at them. Also because it's a historical record. And I can teach people about how to make movies with these things. And they are insulation. They are insulation. They provide an extra layer of insulation so that the cold that's outside would be less able to come inside and make it cold here, which has to be because it freezes in this room in midnight to 8 a.m. most winter nights. That's what happens. I know that because I'm here and I see it. But when you call up the police department, the fire department, the building department, anyone in the city of Yonkers, and you want them to come at 3 a.m. to see the condition, the city of Yonkers, employees of the city of Yonkers have a scheme whereby they're never going to do that. That's never going to happen. At very, very best, I'm going to have somebody who's not an employee come here, but I'd have to pay them to come here and be here and I witness the fact that it's freezing in here. And I'm poor. I have no money. I'm indigent. I got $800 a month, and after my bills are paid, I got $150 or $200 a month to do whatever I'm supposed to do, just to live. And I can't use it to live because I have to use it to put stuff in storage because I own more things than the square footage of this apartment can hold and not seem, in the opinion of an inspector. Now look at these bins here. These bins are here because I have to wash my clothes by hand. And I have these bins, so when I need to do it, I can put them in the tub, and I can put water in, and I can scrub them by hand. And I have to do that because I'm poor, and I can't afford to use the laundromat. And the laundromat, I know about cleaning. And I tell you, the laundromat across the street doesn't wash clothes well, especially my clothes, because every night when I go to sleep in this building, when it's winter, I have to put on all my coats and all my gloves and all my hats and warm myself because I have no heat. And it isn't that I have no heat because the radiators are covered. I have no heat because the landlord is not buying fuel to run in the furnace to make heat, and so that the building is warm. That's why it is. That's the only reason. It makes absolutely no sense to think that blocking the radiators is going to keep heat coming out of it in the radiator. But apparently, I'm stupid. Apparently, it makes sense. And now, the Section 8 lady came here, and she told me, I thought I was recording it, but it turns out the recording didn't work. Because I'm stupid and I don't know how to do it. But she felt that because I have this tub in my tub, this purple tub, she felt that was clutter. She called it clutter. And I had a board here, and she thought that was clutter. But the boards that I did have here were here to act as heat sinks, to absorb the heat from that pipe and hold on to it so that at 12 o'clock, when the heat stopped coming through the pipe, that it would be in the boards, and for a little while longer, heat from the boards into the air, and have it be a little warmer here, a little longer than the landlady wants it to be. And then the city of Yonkers is willing to make sure that it is. So this is a scheme by the people. And now there's this radiator in the bedroom. The radiator in the bedroom has a design where it's covered by a wooden box. There's a wooden box that covers the radiator. Now, if Mr. Lasko is correct that something covering the radiator is going to prevent the heat from coming out, this is evidence that he doesn't know what he's doing. He has to not allow that box to be around the radiator, or he has to not say that something around the radiator is going to prevent it from coming up. And I always keep those three jacks made of metal on top of that box because they act as heat sinks. They act as heat sinks. And I know that it's going to be freezing here at night, so I have heat sinks. And it is true that in April when he came here, since there was no heat coming out of the radiators anyway, and during the summer when there's no heat ever coming out of the radiators, I had some boxes on top of that. But the boxes were empty except they contained some other boxes. And why did I have boxes here? And why did I have many bins here that were empty, like the ones I showed you in the other room? Because I'm trying to move from here. Because I have to live in a different place. Why? Because there's only 400 square feet of space in this apartment. And I don't need a larger bedroom place, but I do need an apartment with more square feet, maybe 1,200 square feet. That's where I have to live, because the things that I own, in order to not look to a inspector as if I'm hoarding, because of their definition of hoarding and clutter, which doesn't agree with what the dictionaries say, but does agree with their interpretation. And like my case manager, who's an expert in all these things, and my lawyer, Michael Linker, the case manager's name is Antoinette Goss, and the lawyer, Michael Linker, he's an expert in these things. So he and Mr. Lasko, he's an expert. And I guess Marion McBain and Emma's Properties are experts because they run this scheme and they realize that they can throw someone out if they have too much stuff in their apartment. And then from their point of view, and all the other people, and of course the judges, they just listen to the experts. They won't have anything to hear about anything like what I'm saying here, which is the problems. The problem is, lady is suing me to saying I broke the lease because I smell and the apartment smells, and then because I have clutter and I don't keep the apartment clean, and then because I'm making a fire hazard by having clutter. But their definition of clutter is not something that a layperson would understand. I think clutter means that I have my table here and I don't have everything neat in order and thrown out or put it where it's supposed to be. I think clutter means that I have this stuff on the table and it looks like it's in a disarray. That's what I think clutter means. That's what, as a layperson, clutter means to me. There's a bunch of stuff. One time, this apartment was very, very, very nice, and there was a little bit of trash like this thing on the floor. But there was a little pile because I didn't have any aid. I was already handicapped, and I didn't have any help, and I was getting the thing cleaned up, ready for the inspector. And the inspector came an hour sooner than I thought they were going to come. And I didn't, and when they came, I hadn't swept it up and put it in a bag. A little bit, and a little bit of papers and things. So she came in, they saw that, the inspector, and looked at the whole place, and then she said that that's clutter, and so I fail. That's what she said to me. That's what they said. And that's absurd. That's absurd that she would fail me as a Section 8 inspector because there was a little pile of dirt on the floor. To me, that's absurd. The purpose of the inspection of Section 8 isn't supposed to be to try to throw people out of Section 8. It's supposed to be to make sure that the person doesn't have so much stuff in the door. Not extra stuff in the apartment, which the person has for a reason that makes sense, for which reason nobody in Section 8 would ever talk with them. The inspector wouldn't say anything about, well, why is this like this? This isn't good. And when they did inspect me for years, they left then that event. Then for 27 days, I had to fret that I was going to lose my Section 8. But I picked that stuff up, put it in the trash. And when they came back in 27, because I had a little pile of dirt on the floor, that means that these people working for Section 8 have a scheme that they're using their whims and their avarice and their caprice. And then anything they see that they could take that and use it to, quote, justify their failing me, they would do that. And that their purpose is to make sure that nobody under Section 8 who's poor has any little tiny bit of a problem. And then, they have passed me with a note in the past. And the note is that the Section 8 people should help make sure that I get help to have an aid because I'm handicapped. I was handicapped before I went to the hospital in a wheelchair, but it wasn't that obvious, but I was handicapped. Now I'm very handicapped. I'm in a wheelchair. I don't know if you can see it. I'm in a wheelchair. Here I am. I can't see the both sides of this. I'm in a wheelchair. I have a wound in my foot. I'm not supposed to even be doing anything but laying in the bed and having aids and help, but I don't have it. I am here alone by myself, and for 8 or 9 months, when I was supposed to have an aide, I didn't have an aide. And then they finally sent me an aide, and the aide was crippled, and she couldn't walk. And now I'm healed enough that what I need an aide to do is help me go to the store, help me go get my eyeglasses, help me do things that I need to do. And this aide couldn't do it. So she came here, and she sat on a chair for the time she was here, and we talked about other things, and then she left. And she didn't do anything. She would sit here and say, oh, the floor, you need to clean the floor up. And then she never got a broom or a mop or anything and did any cleaning up. I can only do so much, and I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed with having to take care of myself and cope with all the people who are supposedly paid to help me, who aren't doing their jobs. And if they do their jobs the best they can, like Mr. Lasco, forgive me, they're so stupid that they don't know how to do their job. And they don't understand that their purpose isn't supposed to be to try to help the landlord to throw someone out of the apartment, but to make sure that the landlord is obeying the law. Not what Mr. Lasco does. It is not what the city of Yonkers does. In fact, the city of Yonkers, between the Municipal Housing Authority, which is operated by and under the auspices of the city of Yonkers and the mayor, and the city of Yonkers Housing and Building Department, which is directly under the control of the mayor and the commissioner of that section. These people are committing fraud. They're committing fraud. They're receiving money from the government, and they're not doing what they're paid to do. And they should not be allowed to do it. And they have a conspiracy. I don't know if they sit down together and think, oh, well, let's throw this Mr. Hobbs out of this, let's make him homeless again, because he's a troublemaker. I don't know. I don't understand. And now, right now, the landlady, according to the law, I've been trying to, for 4 years, organize the people in this building to use the law that says when the building's not being managed properly, that the tenants can get together and they can petition that management of the building be taken away from the owners and given to professional managers. And I've been working to do that for at least 4 years. And it's very difficult to do here because the tenants in this building are not going to, the tenants in this building are not likely to do that. They're either very poor like me, and I'll go through the scenario, but then here's my situation. The first 2 years I was here, I was so grateful that I got to an apartment out of anywhere because I was homeless. And I don't have credit because I was homeless and I was very poor. I've been poor all my life. I worked, I served the public, I did things that most people consider noble. And some of the years I made less than $400 as my annual income as a minister, serving Jesus, helping people. And who did I help? Homeless people and needy people. And I helped them get out of poverty, because I understand how to do it, because I'm a business person and I'm not stupid. In the 7th grade, during the summer, I went to college. I spent my summer in the 7th grade in college studying something that they wouldn't teach me in the junior high school in New Rochelle. And they taught it at Iona College in New Rochelle. I found out you don't have to graduate high school to take a class in college. And I took 4 classes during the summer, which is a semester. And I finished the semester of college. And if you go to New Rochelle, I never received my high school diploma. I never received it. It's still there in the vault, and my records are in the vault. And you'll see that when I went into the 8th grade, I already had a semester of college credits, because by taking the classes in the college, I got credit for my high school, whatever it was, for having, because if you're in high school and you take a college class in New Rochelle at that time, and I think still today, they give you credit for the high school, for the college. I did that. I wasn't a genius. I wanted to learn something, and I wanted to know. And I do. I like to know the facts, and that's happened to me. And it's going to happen to me. Now, I want to point out that I always keep this door to this bedroom closed. And I'll see if I can turn this around again. I want to point out that there's a sign here that says cold storage room in winter months. Because since I know that as soon as it gets cold and stays cold through the winter, for most of the time, this room is so cold that I can use it as a refrigerator. And I have used it as a refrigerator. I've used it as a refrigerator because the food will stay better in here than it is in my refrigerator here. And why does it stay better here than it does in my refrigerator? I'll show you why, if I can do this off. It does that because lady's given me a refrigerator, and with only one shelf in it, and your refrigerator, go look at it. It doesn't have just one shelf. It most likely has 3. Most likely, your refrigerator has. Almost everybody's refrigerator has 3 or 4 shelves. But my refrigerator, and you could consider this a shelf, but it's cracked. It was cracked since I've had it, since it's been here. And you'll put any much weight on it, it will go down and crack again. And he's going to accuse me of ruining it and make me pay for it when I leave here. And so, but in other words, I have to use food stamps to buy food. And I've had to throw away thousands of dollars of food over the years because you have to pile it on top of itself. Instead of having a one shelf and another shelf, 2 shelves, or some refrigerator would have a shelf and a small half of a shelf. They do. Go look in your refrigerator. It's that way. See here, there's a shelf here, and a little half of a shelf. This is what most refrigerators have today. They don't just have an open box with nothing in it. They have shelves. And this is the only shelf that fits this refrigerator. And for 6 years, I've complained. I'm not going to show you now because I can't do it. And they brought me shelves. But they've either brought me shelves that are too short by an inch to fit on that, or an inch too long. So I can't use them. I went and bought this. I went and bought this, hoping to somehow turn it into a shelf. But I don't have tools. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know how to do it, and I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed with problems that I haven't got the time to do all the things I have to do. Here's more shelves that don't fit my refrigerator, and this room seems like it's cluttered. There's too much stuff in it, some people would say. And Mr. Losco said that I have stuff on top of the stove. And that's one reason he complained. And then he said that I have a hot plates with things on top of them. And that implies that there's a fire hazard because of what a hot plate is. And most red hot, and if top of it, it would make a fire. Even if you weren't using it, but there was stuff on top of it, it went on accidentally and start a fire. But this is not a hot plate. Mr. Losco is not qualified to do his job, and he's lying to the court. He's deceiving the court. He should be held in contempt of the court, because this is not a hot plate. This is not a hot plate. And apparently he is too stupid, too ignorant, too uneducated, too uninformed to know what these two things are. This is an induction. See, it says New Wave, live well for less. And you see what this says? Precision induction cooktop. That's what this is. New Wave, pick gold. And I'll tell you, now look at this device. Here it is. It has controls on it. And you can program this. And it has a computer inside of it. It has a little chip that works like a computer. And I'll show you what happens here. Now, what you do, you press start, and it turns on. But I press start, and it won't turn on. And why won't it turn on? Because this will not operate unless there's a pot on top of it. And you see that? E1. You see what it says? E1. This is not a hot plate. This is not a hot plate. This is an induction cooktop. It's not an induction burner. It's an induction cooktop. I'm not saying that absolutely guaranteed you could never get a fire from having this here, with or without stuff on top of it. But I'm telling you that this is not a hot plate. And the implication of having hot plates here with stuff on top of it that transfers false information to the court is an evil act on the part of Mr. Lasco. See, it's beeping, and this is a similar induction burner. It was less expensive from a different company, but it's basically the same thing. It's not even plugged in. Now, this frying pan has a plate on the bottom of it. And this frying pan, I had to buy special to use with this cooktop, because you can't just put any pot on here. You can't put a glass pot on here. You can't put a copper pot on here. You can't use an aluminum pot on this. You have to use something on this that is magnetic, because this doesn't cook by creating heat. This cooks by because of electromagnetism. Electromagnetism is what makes this work. And in fact, electromagnetism makes everything work. If you're a scientist, or if you went to school, or if you went to the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and you studied basic science, you learned what I'm talking about, but you didn't bother to remember any of it because you don't care, because Americans are stupid, generally. And that's a problem. Because then when they become adults, they get jobs and have careers, and they don't even understand the very basics of what's going on. And so it's a problem. And I don't know if this is working. I hope it's working. I really hope it's working. But I don't know if it is. What happens in this, it puts magnetism into the iron that's up here. Well, what happens down real fast? This is from Tesla. Tesla's idea is what makes flowing, and it's working. And it's working because the computer knows that it has a magnetic pot on top of it. Now, if I take another pot, so in other words, this iron part here, a pot has to have iron in it in order for it to work on the top. And it has to have a lot of iron. Some stainless steel pots that come from China don't have enough iron in them, and they won't work on here. But a really good, expensive stainless steel pot will work, or a stainless steel pot that is very expensive will work, and any iron pot will work. Generally work because most ceramic pots have iron in the middle of them. A completely ceramic pot with no iron in it won't work at all. A glass pot won't work. Aluminum pots and pans won't work. So I'm very poor, and I used the gas stove, but I didn't want to use it because I don't like to have gas in my. I think gas is a very dangerous thing that can cause an explosion. Dangerous thing, in my opinion. Now, but I'm a Section 8 person, you see? Now, what happens, this makes the pot hot if it's magnetic. And then there's a pause. So this pot, I won't touch it. It's hot now. But it's very hot in the middle, but not very too hot around the. It's only hot in the middle because it has this on the bottom. And unfortunately, when I bought it, they lied on this. But you see, that stainless steel. Where is it? Stainless steel induction plate. No hot spots means you can cook it easy. And that's a lie. I'm going to sue the people that made this pot, and I'm going to sue Walmart for selling it to me. I will eventually, because what I needed was a pot that was level flat, that had heat evenly on it, because what I for was to try to make pancakes. And it's supposed to be non-stick, but you can see that it's sticking. And I understand why I go into it now, but it's sticking because there's a hot plate under here, and the heat stays here, and this pot are idiots, just like Mr. Losco is an idiot. Idiot means a person who just knows a little bit of stuff. They don't know a lot of stuff. They only know sort of what's inside their brain and what they can conceive, but they can't learn anything new. And I taught him that it isn't a hot plate at one point, but he never turned around and recanted his claim in April that I have hot plates. And I never got to explain to him that because I have this very large microwave oven from General Electric that's supposed to be attached to a cabinet above and hang down, that's what it's supposed to be. But I have no place to hang it, to attach it and hang it down. And since I never want to use my gas stove, I don't use the gas stove. I don't want to use it for reasons I'll explain in a minute. I was so happy at Unique Store to buy this microwave for like $30 used. Convection oven. It's a microwave and it's a convection oven, and I can bake convection baking, and I can bake microwave bake. If I want to bake in here with microwave, I got to use a glass dish. I can't use a metal dish because it will not work. If I just use the convection, I can use the metal pots and pans in there, because then the microwave's not using. And it took a lot of effort to get this. I bought it for $30. In those days, I wasn't in a wheelchair, and I was able I own a dolly that you use to move furniture, and a hand truck, and I was able to, with the hand truck, to carry this 3 miles up, or however miles, from Unique Store up Broadway to here and put it in. And when I put this in, first I had it over here on top of this because I thought it was fine. And then I learned afterwards that at the bottom of this, heat blows out of the bottom of this, hot air. And I figured, well, if hot air is coming out of the bottom of it, I'm going to put it on top of the stove. I never used the stove. And the purpose of a stove and an oven is to have heat in it. And it's supposed to be relatively safe, that the heat isn't going to transfer into the building and cause a fire. So the reason I have this microwave over here is because I'm trying to make sure I don't have a fire, for a safety reason. And since it's a microwave, I can put this stuff on top of it. This stuff on top of the microwave is not a problem. And since I never use the oven, and I never use this, I don't want to use them, I don't want to even have gas, this is not a safety problem. But there's the radiator pipe in this room. It's the only pipe that radiates heat into this room. And if there's no heat here in the building because there's no fuel being burned, then there's no heat in this room. So that's to do with that. But now, why don't I want to have, why is it that they shouldn't require me to have gas under Section 8? I'll tell you why. Residential unit, you have to pay a minimum of $23 a month to the gas company, to Con Edison. And that means you have to pay 10 times 223 is 230 plus 2. So most people, if you're paying for gas to come into your house, if you're paying for gas to come into your house, you have to pay a minimum of $23 a month, because the society, the culture, and the utility commission and Con Edison all say, well, it costs so much money to supply gas to everybody in the world, in the system, and everyone who's connected to the gas and has the gas turned on should pay about what turns out to be about $20 in it, some of its taxes and some of its charges. We have to pay that because that's an equal. Everyone's paying this amount minimum, just to help cover the overhead of supplying you with gas and having someone to come and read the meter once a month and all this sort of stuff. And so the thing is, I only have $200 a month to live on after I pay my bills. And that's not enough money to do much. We're really poor. But if I have to pay $23 a month for gas, which gas I don't ever use, I don't ever want to use it, I don't even want to have it in my apartment because it can cause an explosion. And I don't want to have an explosion. And the gas, the oven I showed you, that stove, fortunately, has no pilot light. When you turn the gas off, the gas goes off. When you turn it on, there's an ignition there. There's electromagnetic ignition that makes a spark, and the gas comes up into the way that you're going to use the pot, and it ignites it, and it turns on. So there's no pilot light in that stove, which I like because I don't have to waste money on the pilot gas. But that if it had a pilot light in it, I wouldn't be able to have that situation there the way it is, because I wouldn't have the microwave on top of it, and I wouldn't be able to use the microwave, and I wouldn't use the oven because I don't want it, and so I would be not able to live in this apartment. And this is a problem that Section 8 has with me, I have with them, and so with the inspectors here. I pay rent to live in this apartment, and there's a lease, and the lease suggests that the landlord should give me heat according to the law, and the law requires her to give me heat when it's cold outside, but she doesn't do that. And the way the city enforces this code and enforces this issue, she or anyone else who doesn't want to give heat at night can do it. She can do it because the heat goes off at midnight and comes on at 5 or 6, 7 in the morning, and there's no way to get anyone to come and see what the temperature is in the middle of the night here, and everyone is in. We'll come at 10 in the morning. So if she turns the heat on at 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning, by 10 in the morning, if there was ice in my bedroom at 3 a.m., it's melted. It's water. So now, how are you supposed to prove that there's no heat at night? And you can't. Or if the preference of the laws and the people running the government is to let it be possible that landlords could do that, then that's why for 20 years, according to other people who lived here for 20 years, there's been no heat in this building at night. So my question is, how can that be, Mr. Judge? How can it possibly be that there's no heat in this building for 20 years at night, and no one has any ability or intelligence or interest in making it get turned on? And what's actually happened here in this case is, because I've complained and complained and complained, I'm being thrown out of my apartment. Instead of the inspector coming here and determining whether there is actually heat here or not in the middle of the night, they come here and used whims and avarice and caprice and ignorance to say it's my fault. And it isn't my fault. And I'll tell you something else. There was a time when there was a stink coming out of this apartment for 2 reasons. One reason is, since I moved here, until last week, before the inspector came, ever since I moved into this apartment, the sink, the tub was clogged up. The drain didn't drain. It would drain slowly. And so if you took a shower, within a minute or 2 or 3 minutes, you're standing in the water that's washing you off. Once it washes you off, it becomes sewage. So you're standing in the water that you showered in, and you're standing in sewage. And then afterwards it drains down, it goes down. And every so often I ask the super to fix it. I tell them, complain about it. But just like everything else in this apartment, they never fix anything until a week before the inspection is going to come for Section 8. Then they fix it. Sometimes they don't fix it right, and sometimes they don't fix it at all. And then Section 8 says 27 days to fix this. Otherwise, you will no longer get paid Section 8. And if they don't pay her Section 8, then that means I have to leave the building and go live somewhere else. So the Section 8 scheme by which they inspect apartments always leaves the scheme that they inspect the Section 8, especially since the people acting Mr. Lasco and their avarice, and however they feel that day, that can make them decide whether they're going to pass me or fail me. And then, oh God. So I have Mrs. Goss, and she swears to God that if it wasn't for her, I'd be out of here a long time ago, because she's interacting with all these people and helping me. Bless her heart. But in order to have this apartment inspected by Section 8, I have to take the stuff that I'm using as heat sinks, if I am doing that, out of this place and put them in storage, so that they'll come here and have it the way they think it needs to be for me to be able to be here. But the way they think it needs to be for me to be able to be here doesn't allow me to live here and to inhabit this place and enjoy it. So, like right now, it's this way, which is the way I have it. It blocks that window. It doesn't block this window. But they would say that this is a fail because I'm blocking the window with the bed. But the window is 3 stories off the ground. Now, yes, if a fireman put a ladder up there, came up the window, he'd see a bed, but he would be able to get in, or she would be able to get in. They wouldn't be prevented from getting in. Well, when they'll get out. I'm in a wheelchair. If there was nothing there, I still couldn't get out of the window. Maybe, unless I can get up, and I can get out of the wheelchair because I'm not supposed to put pressure on my foot. And same thing with this window. It's 3 stories off the ground. You can't go out of this window. And in addition, it's not a fire hazard. And there's nothing in this building, in this room that I do, that's a fire hazard in the sense of, there's going to be a fire started because I don't have the windows blocked. I don't keep the window block in there that's next to the ground where if I wasn't in a wheelchair, I could get out of that window. And if I was sleeping in that room, it would matter. But I can't sleep in that room because in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., it's 0 degrees in there. Now, what idiot thinks I should be living in that bedroom? How can Section 8 think I should live in that bedroom? Because they're idiots and they don't have any concept in their brain about the fact of what I'm explaining here. And every time I've tried to explain this, they have no interest in hearing what I have to say. They have no interest. Their only interest is to compel me to have this place be in a way the minute they inspect it, so that if it's that way all the time, I can't live here. I can't use the place. I can't have my videotape here and get it down and look at it. And I have a videotape here because I don't pay for cable, because I can't afford to pay for cable. Everybody else on Section 8 and SSI pays for cable. But I don't. I don't believe in cable for political reasons and for other reasons later. But I can't afford to pay for cable. I don't need to pay for cable because I can see I can watch all the things on television that I'm interested in watching by looking at these videotapes that I bought for 10 cents or got for free. That I can afford. I can't afford $100 a month for cable. I only have $250 about for my personal choices, how I'm going to live and what I'm going to enjoy. So I can't afford to pay $23,000 or $80,000. And you can afford to give $300 a month to the Con Edison. And Con Edison needs $300 a month because they pay their dollars an hour to work. But I don't get $25 an hour. And I can't afford the gas. And I don't need the gas. And I can't use a hot plate because a hot plate consumes a lot of electricity. The induction stovetop, the induction cooktop, uses 10% of the energy of anything else that I could cook. This is very, very little electricity. So that's why I have it, because I can't afford to use the gas. I can't afford to use electricity. I can't afford to use an induction, a hot plate. And now, the end result of all this is, in my opinion, and the spell, the state of sleep. In the night, in the winter, I have to wear coats and hats and gloves and sweat all night long. 4 hours in an odor. The nose and the brain get used to that, and then you don't smell it anymore. That's science. Biology in high school. Every one of us learned that it was in the book. But we don't know it. So if there is a stench in this apartment and I'm living here, I'm not going to know what it is. And if I smell homeless, or if I smell of a stench, because I had to wear coats all night in the bed and sweat. Then I get up in the morning and I can't take a shower because I'm going to have to stand in sewage to do it with holes in my feet. And I can't use the tub. And I can't use I can't even sponge bath at the sink. Why? Well, I get up at 7, 8 in the morning, and the people live in this building. Some of them have kids that go to school, and some of them are workers, and they need the hot water, and they need everything to use it, and I'm not going to use it because I'm not selfish and greedy and self-centered. I think, well, let them all do it, and then I'll go and I'll use it after. So by 10 o'clock, by the time I want to use it, there's no hot water because of the water heating system is just like the fuel system here. It isn't correct. It isn't the way it should be, and it isn't according to the law. It's not even according to the lease. It doesn't fulfill the implications of the lease, which are I'm going to have heat and hot water, adequate. And so for the first 2 years that I lived here, every day or every other day, I had to go have a membership in recreation in the city, which I got for $40 because I didn't live in the city. That's what it took me 4 hours a day to take my shower, 2 hours to go down there, an hour to do it, and 2 hours to come back, 5 hours a day. But all right, I'm on SSI, and I don't have to go to work. But so I do that. I did that. Now, is that right? So I couldn't take, I've never been able, except for about 2 weeks in the spring and 2 weeks in the end of the summer, I could sort of do it if I'm willing to stand in sewage. I don't want to stand in sewage. When that water is clogged up, I don't know if it's clogged up because there's a dead rat in the pipe and the sewage blocked there for 20 years. I don't know what's in the pipe. And the super would never he would never drain it. He would never get it to go down. He never responded. And the reason is because the landlady overused the super. She has them busy helping her throw people out 2 months. So money. How does she collect extra money? She throws the poor people out. The next poor person comes in, and there's a month's rent a month's security, which is another month's rent, and then her daughter, who's listed as the real estate agent or whoever's renting the apartment, they get a real estate fee, dollars extra money, and the welfare pays it. Even though I'm a Section 8, the welfare paid the security deposit, and eventually they paid the real estate fee. So she gets $2,200 extra money. But I'll tell you, when the poor people, she's able to come in and always say, oh, the place was a mess, this, and that, and she keeps the money. And no poor person can go collect that money. They can't do it because they're not even going to bother to do it, because when they go to another apartment, Section 8, the welfare will pay another month's rent, another month's security. They will. And so what she's doing is a scheme to commit fraud and to steal from the welfare and from the public. That's what she's doing. And they try, it seems to me, to move to maybe the taxes are so high on this building. It's here. Some of the apartments don't pay very much rent. I don't know what they pay, but we're going to find out. If she's throwing people out to get $4,000 extra a month, so she can have it to try to pay the taxes and keep the little fuel she is paying for paid for. If that's what she's doing, well, God bless her in one sense, but she's still breaking the law. But the reason all this is happening is she's not a professional manager. She doesn't know what she's doing. Her children aren't professional managers. And the way they manage this building is the reason why, which is they mismanage it, which is the reason why there's a stench coming out of my apartment. If the stench was caused because I couldn't take a shower because I was sweating all night, if that's what caused it. But that's not what. That one, this is an old building. And two, when it rains, the roof isn't fixed right, and water comes into the walls. And then it comes down in the kitchen area and around the pipes, and it drains down, and it rots the walls. It wets the walls. And then every night in the winter, the heat goes off and the water freezes in the walls like it does in my bedroom. And then the heat comes on in the morning and it thaws. And all through the winter, this building is frozen and it's thawed out, and frozen and thawed out. And when water freezes, it swells. And when it thaws out, it reduces. And so there's a gradual, continual destruction of the structure of this building. And the plaster moldy and rotten. And there's mold all through this building inside the walls. And what happened while I was in a nursing home in the hospital, for 3 months, she had a plumber come here. She couldn't get her super to do this job because I don't know why. Probably because she couldn't finagle the building department to let her do it and get away with it. But everything that's wrong here is happening because the building department is not enforcing the law. And they don't have a scheme to enforce it. And they're letting her do what's wrong here and mismanage the building. And so they took that sink out, the sink and the whole area that can hold the sink out, and they put it in the hall here. It was here for 2 or 3 months in the hall. And then they took all the pipes out, and they had to hire a plumber to do it. And when they first hired a plumber, they couldn't get him to come in and do it because it stank in this apartment. So he opened the windows, and he did it. Then eventually, and I don't know if he was an actual plumber. He might have been a person who was a retired plumber or was a plumber's help. I don't know who he was. We're going to find out because we're going to subpoena her records and her information and find out his name. And then we're going to subpoena him and we're going to find out his name and have him testify as to what was going on. But what happened is that he had to take the pipes out. Another problem is that the people upstairs have a washing machine, a small washing machine, and they were using it. They've been using it. And when they used it, the water would back up in my sink and pour out onto the floor in the kitchen. And so I had all the refuge of the sewage of their washing machine coming into my apartment and being in the apartment. And I do have a lot of stuff in my kitchen because I can't contain all the stuff that I need in that kitchen without having a lot of storage. I buy things when they're very cheap. I buy enough of them so that when they're not cheap, I have them to eat without having to spend more money. And I have to do that because the food I put in my refrigerator rots because of the shelf. And so then in order to try to get by on the food stamps and not much more, I have to manage my purchasing. I have to control it very well. And when something is outdated and you would throw it away, I buy it because it's for 4 cents instead of $4. And I intentionally buy some food that's outdated because I know about dating. I understand about food manufacturing. And I know the difference between something that's outdated because it's going to hurt you and something that's outdated because it's a part of a scheme to make everyone throw stuff away and go buy new, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Or if there is something wrong with it, it has to do with taste and staleness and not whether it can be used as food. And I do throw stale things out. I don't eat everything that's old, but I eat certain things that I would buy with the date being expired. It doesn't matter. They're not going to harm me. They're not bad because I understand the science and the history about it. I know how to manufacture food. I've been to school and I learned this and I know it by reading in books. And I know the truth. It's too much to explain here. But someone else would see that and throw it out. It's old. I won't throw it. Not old. I'm going to eat it. And then they throw it out. And if I want to eat it, I got to go to the store and buy another one. And the American culture that's what it is. That's what all of you people do. You have enough money, so you buy stuff, you give it away or throw it out, and you buy it again. I can't do that. I can't do it. I don't have enough money to afford to do that. I'm in poverty. And everything about how the government and you rich people are trying to determine I should live has to do with making it impossible for me to enjoy my life the way you're enjoying your life. You watch the cable, and I watch my videotapes. You pay for gas whether you use it or not, and I don't want to pay for gas because I can't afford it. And I use an induction burner because it's cheap. And I have lights, but I have one light, a low one in this room. I can't afford to burn the lights. And you think that's lunacy. But I don't think it's lunacy. It's the reason why I have this apartment the way it is. And it's not my fault. I have the apartment the way it is because the landlady doesn't give me heat. She doesn't have a place for me to take a shower. Section 8 doesn't enforce her to give me heat. They've inspected this place for 5 years and passed it. And there's no heat. And I'll tell you what, they passed the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom they passed. And within 2 months or less after they passed it, because the pipes upstairs above me are leaking sewage into the walls, it comes down and the ceiling starts to leak. And then for a year, or less than a year, it leaks until it's going to be another inspection, Section 8. And then they come in the day or two before, or the week before, and they patch it. And then Section 8 passes it. But actually, if you look at the history of the Section 8 inspections in this apartment, often they didn't fix it until Section 8 came in and gave them 20 days to fix it. And then they come in and fix it and they pass. And they get their Section 8 money. But then a month or two later, the sink's leaking again. And even if the tub wasn't clogged up, there's sewage dripping into my tub every night, in the middle of the night. I'm going to take a shower in a tub that has sewage in it. Would you? So I might stink, but I'm not stinking. This apartment stank because of the the sewage water from the washing machine from upstairs coming into the kitchen, over the overflowing in the sink and going on the floor and going all over. And so I can't clean it. I'm crippled. I'm in a wheelchair, and I can't clean all the sewage coming from all the rainwater coming from the above apartments and anything else above the second floor, whatever's causing rot. The walls are full of mildew and they're full of mold and they're rotting, and the pipes were rotting. Hundreds of year old pipes or 50-year-old pipes, whatever they are. And when they brought that plumber in here, which I don't know if he was licensed or not, and he finally took the whole plaster off the wall and took the pipes out. I don't know exactly all what he did. He did whatever he did. And then for 2 months it was left, and finally they put it all back. Now, people have been in this apartment since then. A crew of people came in to clean the apartment, but they didn't clean the apartment. They just wanted to throw away stuff that they thought was trash, that I don't think is trash. Because I had a bottle of olive oil, brand new one. I had one that was 6 years old. And I bought the new one because I was going to throw the old one away, but it's oil. And I don't have to use it to cook with. I can use it for other things. I know what they are because I'm not stupid. But sure enough, this crew that came in like a tornado to straighten this place out and clean it up. These people are from South America. Bless their hearts. Wonderful Spanish-speaking people. Don't speak a word of English. The fellow supervising them spoke English and Spanish, and he's a dentist in Mexico, but he's not allowed to be a dentist. And so he's a head of a cleaning crew here. And I told the people, the government, to come in and help me clean this up so I could have a better place, that I don't need a crew of people in here. I need one person to come here and help me, because I'm the only one who can pick out what's junk and throw it out. And it is not really a matter of throwing stuff out here. It's really a matter of having the time to organize this stuff and put it together right, and then throw stuff out. Every time when the Section 8 would come to inspect, because I've had no help, absolutely no help to keep the place clean, which I couldn't keep it clean because I was sick and troubled and coming out, and I'm supposed to have AIDS, and they never give me an aid. Then they finally did give me an aid after 8 months, and the aide sat here and didn't do anything. And then she couldn't help me go get groceries. The whole social safety network system stinks. And this place stank because of all that trouble in the kitchen. How do I know that? Because after they fixed that, people came in here and it didn't stink. It might have smelled a little, but it didn't stink. And it smelled a little because I still can't use the shower. I still have to sit here cold at night, and I can't fix it. What can I do? I'm in a wheelchair. So the inspector comes into Section 8. Well, you're in a wheelchair. You can't get into the bathroom because there's stuff in the way. The stupid idiot of the inspector, the wheelchair doesn't fit in the bathroom. You can't put the wheelchair in the bathroom. I can't use the wheelchair to get into the bathroom. I use the wheelchair. I go to the bathroom door, I put the lock on the wheelchair, and I use the bathroom. And so I have a chair in there to sit on, so I can do stuff in the bathroom. That the inspectors and the scheme of inspection for Section 8 is fraudulent. It's banal. It's ignorant. It's stupid. And instead of allow the person who has the Section 8 to be able to enjoy a life in the apartment, it's used to abuse us, to oppress us, and to have us go through stress every year worrying about whether we're going to pass an inspection or not, and whether we're going to lose our Section 8. And so if there is no heat here in this building, and the Inspection 8 inspector says, is everything okay? Is anything? And I say here at night, what's going to happen? Then there's no way to prove it. And if there's no heat at night, then they're going to say to the landlady, well, we're not going to pay you until you get heat at night. And she's not going to put heat at night. Instead, once they don't pay her, then she can take me to court and say that I didn't pay her rent. But she's not talking about me. It's talking about that the Section 8 didn't pay her rent. And so she'll say, well, you haven't paid rent for a year here. And that's what she said to me. She said it to me twice in the last two months. And once with a witness and once only to me. You don't pay anything here. You live here for free. Free because in April, or before April, the Section 8 came in here, inspected the apartment, and they found that there was not caulking in the bathtub and some other reasons. Well, look at the record. It's there. And then they said, oh, because of this, you fail. The landlord's doing something wrong. She has to fix it, and then she'll get paid. And then they were going to come back in 20 days. And I don't know how all this worked out, but there was an issue with my situation here. Well, when they inspected this apartment, I was either still in the nursing home, if they did it before February, or I had just come out of the nursing home. I was supposed to have a nurse 3 days a week and an aide 24 hours a day or 12 hours a day helping me. I was supposed to have that. I had no aide and no nurse. They didn't come. They didn't come. And I had a case manager. They didn't come. And I'm in the bed, and I'm supposed to be in the nursing home. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm here in a wheelchair. I'm telling you that what's going on. Then the Section 8 and the McCrite who does the inspecting said, well, when you're ready for the new inspection, re-inspect us. I'm supposed to call them for the re-inspection, not the landlady. But the landlady left this place and she didn't fix these problems correctly until the 5th of November. And in the meantime, the super had come in and put the wall in the kitchen because there wasn't a wall there. And every day when I did get up, plaster was falling and stuff was falling from the ceiling down into my sink in the kitchen. And I would have had to wash the sink before I could use it. And I'm in a wheelchair. And I'm trying to do things easy, not hard. And so many mornings I couldn't even make a breakfast or you do anything because of that. And then, so finally, they came in and replaced the plasterboard, everything. And then a week later, or 2 weeks later, there's a mark in the ceiling from rot. And there's mold inside not inside the wall, but on the surface of the wall. There's mold there. It's still there. Because the super didn't come in and tear it out and replace it again. He came in and sprayed bleach on it and stuff on it and then wiped it off. He used vinegar and I don't know whatever else. He told me, and I recorded it. And he patched it up so it looked like it wasn't mold there and there was no problem. Then he painted it. And for the first time, and since I've lived in, the water drains down. Mr. Lasco came here. I wanted to show him that the water doesn't drain down, but he wouldn't look at it. He refused. And when Mr. Lasco came here twice, I said to him, all right, Mr. Lasco, I don't understand why this is a fire hazard. I don't understand. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I don't understand. So please come in this room and tell me it's a fire hazard. But they all think that I'm insane, saying to themselves. The kind of fire hazard that I had here, if I had one, which I don't agree that I had one, comes to the fact that I have a lot of stuff, more stuff than I should have. And the reason I had more stuff than I is to provide insulation on the wall in the bedroom, to help the fact that there's no insulation in the building, air between the bricks and that, and who knows what the condition is, because and less hot in the summer, by providing insulation, that I can do it, for years. I wasn't doing something crazy. I wasn't doing something wrong. I wasn't hoarding, because I know what the word hoarding means, according to what it says in the dictionary. According to the dictionary, hoarding is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But when they say you're hoarding, in the court, they're implying you're doing something bad, because they have a different the definition of the word hoarding than what's in the dictionary. And they're lying to the court. And the court is assuming that they know what they're doing, so the court will go with them instead of with the dictionary. And us lay people who know how to use the dictionary, and they tell you you're hoarding and hoarder, and implying that it's bad, and I'm going to show this whole scheme, and I'm going to make them pay money. And I can't get money. I can't receive money. If I get money, then I lose my Section 8 and my SSI. So I'll let them pay the money to the taxpayers, or I'll set up a supplemental needs trust and let them pay it to that. And then I'll let them pay lots, because the only thing that's going to get this landlady to put heat on in this building is if suddenly she has to obey the law. And the only way she's going to obey the law, that's not true. The only thing that's going to make her put heat in this building is if I sue her and make her pay me back money for the past rent, because she didn't meet the lease, and make her pay me for the damages she's caused to my human body by not having heat here at night, and make her pay triple damages for trying to throw me out because I'm organizing this thing and trying to fix this problem here, which the law allows us to do. And when she and her daughter and her son, who's her lawyer, when they all start having to not make so much money off this building or start to lose money, they're either going to leave the thing and then someone will come and run it who doesn't destroy the building, or the government will take it over and federal money will be used to rehab it, to do urban renewal. And both the lawyer and my case manager have said to me that this is a slumlord. This is a slumlord. This is a slumlord. So when my attorney refused to represent me on last Thursday, if this is Monday, the Thursday the 8th of November, I have to represent myself. Well, I don't know how to represent myself. And I have a heart condition. I have a damaged left ventricle in my heart, which is partly due to the fact that I had no heat here for 2 years in the winter, and I couldn't sleep right. But the bottom line is, I said, well, I need you, Mr. Attorney, to come in and testify. Oh, I can't do that. Well, I'll subpoena you. Well, I need you to tell in the court he is considered a slumlord. Oh, well, I can't say that. It won't be allowed, or whatever. And my manager. Well, what did happen on Thursday is my case manager was supposed to show up before the inspector showed up, but she didn't want to do that. She wanted to tell me that I should call her when they call me, because they're going to come and they'll call a half hour sooner. And then she'll take a half hour to get here and be here. But they didn't call me a half hour sooner. They didn't do that. And in fact, I didn't even know that the inspector was coming until Monday, the 8th, 11th is Wednesday, the 6th is Tuesday, the 5th is Monday. So Monday evening after 5, I checked my phones, and there was a message. The beginning of it was cut off, but it implied that McWright was coming to inspect. But I didn't know. I called them. I had to call them Tuesday morning what's this about? Oh, I hope I have the dates right here. Oh, you're gonna be re-inspected. And when? Well, we don't know exactly. It'll be, I don't know if they said the 7th or the 8th, so maybe I have the numbers wrong here. But, well, call up in the afternoon and we'll tell you. And then after 5, I check my messages, and then there's a message that they'll inspect from between 10 and 1. All right. Then I call them the next morning. Well, I said, you never gave me that you're going to inspect me until today. I finally know today you're going to inspect me tomorrow. And I'm not prepared to be inspected because I've been working to rearrange things here to get this place the way I could live here. And so I got a friend came and helped me, and we tried to figure out, I don't know if it's the action from the spring or if it's the annual inspection that every 10 months they do. I don't know. I'm not a professional. I don't know all and understand all these things. So I waited till anyway. So the inspector comes on the 8th, the same day that Michael came here, to decide whether he's going to represent me or not. By whether or not he thinks I have gotten rid of enough stuff out of this apartment so he will feel that we've abated the fire hazard. But the fire hazard isn't a fire hazard that I'm. It's saying that I have too much stuff in here, so the stuff is going to, and it'll help make the fire worse, which is ludicrous. It's a real meaningful and well-intended point. Is into the regards to this building, because now the heat's coming on. Now the heat's coming on. I can hear. Can you hear it? In this building, right now, the heat is coming on. And I can't see what time it is on this phone because I'm using it to record this live broadcast, which I don't think anybody is watching at 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't know whether it's going to end up on YouTube or not. But it's 6:44 now a.m. And around this time, it varies. In the morning, you hear the pipes beginning to rattle, that there's heat going to come up into the building. So now, you can see the sunlight. It's, I guess, according to that phone, it's 6:40 a.m. And now I'm coming back to the bathroom. Because now, soon, if it happens the way it usually happens here, this pipe is going to begin to be warm. I'm in the bathroom again, and this is the pipe from the bottom to the top. And it's still cold. It's still cold. But it's not real cold. Oh, you see here, I can't touch it. It's hot. Here, it's not hot yet. But it will get hot because the way heat works, the hot water is down below, so the heat rises. So gradually it gets hotter. Now it's hot. Now I can't touch it. I can't hold it because it's too hot. You can't. I can't prove that to you. I'm not acting. It's too hot. And for me to prove it, I'd have to hold that and burn my hand. Now, why? Why does the city of Yonkers want me to burn my hand on this videotape to prove that there's no heat here at night? Does that make any sense? Hour and 41 minutes I've been making this video. But the court's going to say that this isn't evidence, that this doesn't matter. So is Mr. Lusko. So is my landlady. So is her attorney. So is the city of Yonkers. Am I crazy, viewer? Am I wrong? Here's heat. I can't prove it with the video. I can't touch this pipe. And I don't know what to do. So either Monday I have to represent myself because Mr. McBain will not refuse to adjourn, and the judge will refuse to adjourn this thing because I have a, quote, fire hazard. But the fire hazard is abated. The issue of the fire hazard is cured. Because I've had to hire people who do me. I had to rent a U-Haul van, which I couldn't afford to do. I had to rent storage, which I couldn't afford to do. I keep this door closed because it's always cold in this room. And then the door closed, instead of the cold going into the rest of the apartment and making that colder and this warmer. Now look, that pipe has heat coming up into it. But this pipe, this radiator, doesn't have heat at all. Or if it does, no. The issue here is not, as Mr. Lusko says, who is an unprofessional man, who is an idiot, who instead of getting the facts and looking at the facts, uses a whim and avarice and capriciousness to decide what he's doing, because he doesn't know what he's doing. There's no, I can hold this pipe. I can hold it and hold it and hold it all day long and all night long, because this room, apparently, which I'm just discovering now, never has any heat coming up into the radiator. And that's not my fault. That's not because I have stuff around it or don't have stuff around it. If I have stuff around it, it operates as a heat sink. And if I don't have stuff around it, the heat, that has, what Mr. Lusko says, makes no intelligent sense except to people who are stupid, who will listen to what he says and agree with him. Whether there's stuff on the radiator or there's not stuff on the radiator is not a material fact in this case. So his testimony is immaterial in this case. This room freezes, and all the Inspection 8 inspectors and everybody who's coming here is abusing me. They're abusing me because I'm poor, and because I'm not stupid, and because I'm doing what a reasonable person might do to try to live. And that's what the law says. The law says that that it's supposed to be able to be understood by a reasonably intelligent person. And if it can't be understood by them, then there's something wrong with the law. So, Your Honor, or you jury, I'm not at fault here. The things oh, and you see, that having paid people to help me, which money I can't afford, and having paid people who get paid to come here and to work for 5 hours, 6 hours and do the job, and then they come here and 3 hours later, I gotta go. So I rent a van for 24 hours, and we only use it for 3 hours instead of 6, and get everything done, put everything in storage. Why? Because finally on the 8th, after the inspector came from Section 8, and Mrs. Goss had failed to come here to mitigate the situation, I asked the inspector on the phone, and Mrs. Goss heard it. I thought I was recording it with another phone, but it tricked me, and it didn't get recorded. And I wanted to record it because I wanted to show how from Section 8, how the inspection scheme that McCreight uses is capricious, avaricious, whimsical, and leaves the person like myself not understanding what the rules are and to understand how to comply with them. So, what is this out here? A wire? Mrs. Goss explained to me after the inspector left from Section 8, well, clutter means you have, she gave me this definition of clutter that she has, that isn't in the dictionary, that if you go in an apartment and you can't see the walls, this is clutter. You have to be able to see a certain percentage of the walls. Well, if I had stuff from there to the ceiling, all the way around, except over the windows, I don't cover the windows ever, because this window needs to be open, because if a person's in here and there's a fire, they need to get out. The fireman can easily get in here. But I can't get out because I'm in a wheelchair. Well, I could get out. I can get out of the wheelchair and walk a little bit, but I can't stay out of the wheelchair. So I don't know what this wire is. I'm not going to even... some reason, I'm going to see if I can do it. I hope I don't fall. See, now I'm standing up. So I can stand up. But if I do stand up, then my standing up, all right, so that's some wire having to do with the cable or the phone. So that's not, but you see there's snow outside. There's snow. Because it's Friday, the 16th, and it snowed last night. And this window's not open. But I don't have drapes on the window. I don't have drapes on any of the windows, because I know that drapes will certainly cause a fire. If a fire starts and it gets hot, they'll combust, and they will help spread the fire. But I had this so that all the walls, this wall and this wall and this wall, all had containers, some of them empty, that have air in them, up against it, so that it acts as insulation. And so that if there ever was any heat in this room from the radiator, they would act as heat sinks. That's what I was doing. And it's reasonable to do that. It's not unreasonable. It makes sense. If I lived here for a year and it's freezing in this room, I'll create insulation, the way I could afford to do it, which is to buy these bins when they're on sale and insulate the place. Except I didn't have anything ever on top of this radiator, because I didn't know. I think this might be the first time I realized that it's not even heating, even in the winter, because I don't use this room except to store stuff. I pay $200 a month rent to be in this apartment. And the Section 8 and the people who are supposed to help me don't have the common sense or the brains or the ability to think this through and realize that the problem here from Section 8 has to do with something I'll discuss in a minute. Now I got to back myself out of here, and that's hard to do. But just see this sign. When the Inspection 8 came here, I had it right on this door, but I couldn't put it on the door because I couldn't find Scotch tape. So I finally found it. But it says right there what's going on here. But the inspector, Section 8, didn't look at that. And if they did, it didn't matter to them. Because just like black lives don't matter, I'm poor. And so it doesn't matter if you're white or black. If you're poor, your life doesn't matter. Except, your life matters. You got to be able to get in and out of the room if there's a fire. And your bedroom's got to have a smoke detector in it. But that's not the bedroom. Only an idiot would live here and use that for a bedroom. If there's no heat there, and the heat's not there, for now I realize for two reasons. One, the radiator doesn't work at all, which is not my responsibility or my fault, it's their fault. And the other problem is that there's no, if it did work, if I left the door open, all this heat, by not having it open, these rooms are heated half adequately. And you see, I have a space heater there and a space heater here, but they're not connected. They're not plugged in. I don't want to use a space heater. A space heater is a fire hazard that's going to cause a fire to start. Insulation in there and heat sinks are not going to cause a fire to start. So it's not a fire hazard. The way it's implied by the attorney for MS Property, who so far is the only here, is the attorney for MS Property in the last hearing where I wasn't allowed to speak, but he was by the judge. He said there's a fire hazard. But I had a document in front of me that explained that it wasn't a fire hazard and explained that these problems that they're accusing me of aren't caused by me. They're not problems because they're not what they, but they are my attempts in poverty to solve the problems that they're creating. Except I can't do anything about the stench if the stench comes from the walls, from the mismanagement of the building. Because I'll tell you, once the plumber replaced that stuff and they replaced the wall, that stench isn't here anymore. There's a smell here because I still can't take a bath. I still can't sleep without putting coats on. I freeze at night. My feet can't heal. My feet can't heal. There are wounds in my feet that cannot heal because they won't heal if I'm functioning and doing things. I need to be laying in my bed for 3 months when I came out of the nursing home with aides, with nurses coming to change the bandages, and every 2 days be able to wash my foot. If I wash my foot every 2 days and the nurse changes the bandage, I can't wash my feet, take the bandages off because I can't put them back on. Because I couldn't bend over and touch my feet. Now I can a little bit. And instead of me healing in 3 months, because of this building not having heat, and because of me not getting aids, and having to get up and cook and go to the bathroom to pee instead of in my diapers, so I didn't get what I was supposed to get. And that's why there's a problem here. And that if there's any smell in this apartment, I'm not going to know it because after 4 hours, you can't notice any smell that's around you. And some people, what smells bad to you, to them smells like perfume. Perfume is made from rotten dead whale carcasses, whale sperm. It stinks, but they make perfume from it. Well, to me, perfume stinks because I don't like the smell of it. But to you, it smells nice. So this is all subjective. This is all whimsical. This is all avaricious. This is all capricious. And the law requires that the person be able to understand the law. A reasonable, intelligent person is able to understand it and follow it. And I've tried in this videotape to give a very clear indication that the problems here are caused by the landlord's failure to manage this building right, that I am not at fault here, that the things I'm doing are trying to mitigate their errors, and that I've tried, I haven't shown you, but I did have tried, I filed a federal lawsuit before I went in the nursing home. With a crayon and a magic marker, I wrote a federal lawsuit to put these issues in the public record that I'm talking about right now. And it's down in the federal courthouse. The judge dismissed the case. But and when I got it back, I was blind. I couldn't read the reply. And now the people who came in and helped me in this place, clean this place up by throwing everything out, apparently have thrown out that reply. Maybe it's somewhere stuck in one of the bins in storage or here. So I can't read it. Eventually, I will go down to the federal courthouse and hopefully get a copy of it, which will cost me a small fortune, what the judge said. And I will, if I could do it, if I would have been given time past Monday, I would bring a case to this court that the only way the court's going to find me at fault and have me lose is if the court is knowingly or unknowingly a part of the conspiracy of all these inspectors, of all these people whose job it is supposed to be to help me, to make sure that because I'm complaining and trying to make things be done right here, correct here, legally here, I'm being evicted. And if that happens, there's a law that requires the landlady to pay triple damages to me for what she's trying to get from me, and they're trying to get $9,000 from me. So 3 times 9 is $27,000. So I don't know how and when I'm supposed to do it, but sir, madam, judge, jury, I claim my right according to the law because I have been trying to organize this building to get the management taken away from the building managers and given to someone who will manage it correctly. Now, because they're suing me, I ask for the $27,000, which cannot be paid to me, has to be paid to my supplemental needs trust, or to a pool that will be used to help fix the problems in this building. That's my contention. That's my point of view. And if you look into this YouTube channel and the associated ones, you'll find all evidence from 2, 3, 4 years ago supporting everything I'm telling you, even more. And you put it on the YouTube, you search Richardpaulhobbs at gmail.com, or you search Poor for Trump at gmail.com, or you search in YouTube and yours church at gmail.com. If you don't use that, YouTube won't show you my channels because they're trying to hide it because they think I'm a nut. So they make sure that it's hard for people to find me if they go normal. I'm ending this now. Thank you. I'm trying to end it, but I'm not good at using it. Me. And please share this. And I hope that I can use this in court as evidence with my testimony that it's true and I made it and there's no editing here. Thank you. Dear Jesus, please save Mr. Lusko. Please save Marion McBain. Please save everybody in this building. Please help us to succeed in our goal, which is I could have left here in the summer and moved somewhere else. But I stayed here, and I'm here risking my comfort in my Section 8, which I don't want to do, to try to help solve the problem, which is that if I leave here without this issue being resolved, some other poor slob's going to come in here, and they're going to have no heat. And what really goes on here is there's a few people who live here that are making enough money that they just use space heaters and they do other things that are all real fire hazards, and they just don't care about the heat. And the other people are poor, and she moves them out 2 a month, and she gets $4,000 extra money. Leave her in Jesus. She told me with a witness, she's a widow and she has children. It makes it sound like she's got little children. But one child that I know of is her attorney. He's an attorney, Charles McBain. And the other child, I think, is Eleanor O'Donnell. And I don't know who owns MS Properties. I can't find out. I called the Department of State, New York, and that. You can't find out. You can't talk to anyone. You can't find out. I can't go to Albany and look in their records, or New York. I can't do it. I'm in a wheelchair. And then you have to get the county. So I called the county clerk, try to figure out, nowhere. I'm going to have to go, who owns MS Properties in court? By law, I'm supposed to be able to find that out. And I'll tell you something else. They should be, in order to run a building, they should have to have licenses, a business issued license. Except that I would go to the city hall, which is very, very difficult for a person in a wheelchair to get into the city hall. Tell me how I'm supposed to get into the city hall in a wheelchair. And I'll tell you, it would take me a long, long, long roundabout way to do it that I'm aware of. And so I would like to have, if this is being done on Monday, I'd like to have a FOIL request to show that there have been many people calling and complaining about the heat in this building over the years. Because the firemen who came, Lieutenant O'Connor and Chief said to me they came twice. They came once back around April because she brought them. Whenever she brought Lusko in to show I had what she considered a fire hazard, what he's going to say is a fire hazard. When that happened, then a few days later, she brought the fire marshals here. And the fire marshals, when they first came here, all of them, they don't know better. And then their actions are a conspiracy without actually organized. Federal law having to do with this doesn't say if people get together and they scheme to cause a problem, it's a conspiracy. No, it doesn't limit it to that. It says if their actions all taken together cause this discrimination to happen against the person, then they are conspiring. Because actions are conspiratorial, not their intent with their civil rights. That's the law. I know that. You don't, but if you know that particular part of the law. But as a layperson, I understand that. I could be wrong, but I'm not wrong because that's what the Supreme Court has decided. Now, so. The firemen came in. I said to them at the entrance, there's no heat in this place in the winter from before. And we were right. This is the apartment. And you see, I don't have a lot of stuff here. I did have stuff, empty bins here, or bins with videotapes in them, because air is what insulates things. Only air insulates anything. And the more air you have, and the more air you have cased in little containers or big containers, that's how you insulate, by preventing the movement of air. Because then he looked around the apartment, but he wasn't here and made it re-inspected. I don't remember it, that and the other. But I told him in April, but I said, there were hundreds of building inspectors, sees the whole building department. And the human nature wants me to point a finger and accuse. That's not right, because I don't know why it's happening. I'm not going to put blame on anyone. But I'm going to say this: earn his pay, because he's not doing his job. He's not coming on of anything. Maybe it'd be a loss to run the building. I don't know. I just know this thing that's happening involved with this. Why did Section 8, and if I've lost my Section 8, I'm on the 5th and told them to So I don't know what clutter means. So then I talk Mrs. Ghost, my case manager. Legally means a dirty, messy table, a little trash on the floor. That's not a reason for them to take away my ability to have a place to live. But that's what it's used for. And a person who's on Section 8 in this apartment is in a catch-22. Because no matter what they say, except they shut their mouth and say nothing and not complain, the result's going to be they're going to be out on the street. If I say there's no heat, and the landlady can come here and prove that doesn't matter whether there's heat or not, I shouldn't be here. She just wants to get rid of me because she likes to transfer poor tenants because she's going to make $2,000, $4,000 profit off of it. And this money isn't being paid by me except the $200. If this other room is useless except to store stuff, and I'm paying monthly, and I can't use that room to enjoy it, I have to live in. It's not unreasonable for me to say, all right, well, I'll store my extra stuff in that room. I'll use it for insulation. I'll use it for heat sinks. And I'll use it here for heat sinks, space heaters. And if there's no fire caused in this building, it isn't really immaterial whether there's extra stuff or less stuff in my apartment. I told Mr. Lasko that when he was first here, that these bins that were up to the ceiling were empty. They were empty. But he didn't let me say the next word, which I used them for insulation. He's too stupid to know that or to think it. And he says, well, they're up there, they'll make a fire. So with his reasoning, if they're up there, they'll make a fire. But if I have them down low, they'll make a reasoning of Section 8 and the reasoning of the people who have this technical definition of the idiots think that if they're up there, they'll burn. And if they're down here, they won't burn. That's stupid. That's absolutely banal. Which bit? So I had to take all the stuff and put it in storage. It cost me $400, which I don't have. I can't afford it. And so I didn't get it done in time. So now my attorney doesn't want to represent me. So I have to represent myself on Monday, the 19th, unless they adjourn this. So I'm going to lose. But it is abated. There's no smell in this apartment. That's terrible. There's no yes, it should be swept. Yeah, anyone comes in here, it looks like I'm a hoarder according to the definition that the law uses, which is to say I'm bad, which in the Army, the definition is that I'm not bad. I don't know if I can do this because I don't have good lighting here. And so this is impossible for any single, all right, a temporary, now what does that word have to do with me? Do I have a board around this thing? Am I constructing? No, it has nothing to do with me. Hoard means hoarding, one. Now, Mrs. O'Donnell called me a hoarder in her document. I'm going to sue her for defamation of character because she's using the word hoard to I can't do this because I can't hold the dictionary up at the same time and have the phone plugged in at the same time, and and everything, everything, everything involved in this case and this situation is because one person, what I have to do just to be able to live here, just to be able to live here, what I have to do is impossible for anybody to do. Hoard. I can't do this because I have to have the, I think I don't have this thing in the place. A hidden supply fund. Supply stored up. It's not an hoard in the dictionary. To lay up a hoard of, or is to lay a hidden supply. They're complaining about if I have a hidden